Dallas's defense is terrible, but they did what they were supposed to do against a terrible defense and threw a 50 spot on them, right? So Cleveland's tough, but they had a tie against an Eagles team that I think is better than what their record is. And now they went out and beat a entertaining Jacksonville team that can definitely win some games. They're not like the Jacksonville of old that are just atrocious. I think Minshew can keep them in games at least. And they're kind of doing their thing. Mixon was out there. Mixon looks spectacular. Mm-hmm. He looked like a real featured back for the first time in the longest time that I can remember. I think he touched the ball, had to be 25, 26 times. I think he had like 150 yards, a couple of touchdowns. And Joe Burrow, he looks like the real deal, stepping out as a rookie. 75% completion, throwing for 300 yards. He looks legit. And he's got some weapons around him because Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are really good too. So I'm very excited for this team's future. I know they're in the Baltimore Ravens division, so you probably don't share my excitement of anyone else getting good in there, but they look like the future might be bright there.
Yeah, they if they can protect Joe Burrow, because he's still getting killed. And he's starting to get smart now. He's starting to get down. He's starting not to take those hits, especially after getting killed last week. I was seeing some shots that he was taking. I'm like, man, that hurt my soul. But yeah, man, I feel you on that one. Joe Burrow looks awesome. He's looking cool, calm, and collected. Another game of 300 yards passing. I think that's the third one in a row, and I think that's the first time that a rookie quarterback has ever done that. Joe Mixon, you'd be hard pressed to find a better running back in the league right now, because that boy is balling. Like you said, man, he had about 30 touches in total, over 180 yards total, and 3 touchdowns. He is their workhorse. He is their bell cow, and he looks phenomenal. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, AJ Green is a shell of himself now. He can't get open, but those other 2 young receivers, they look really good. They just got to get that offensive line intact, and they got to fix that defense as well. But Joe Burrow, he's a gamer. I like him, man. I liked him in college, man. He just had a certain swag about him. He had a certain look. He looked like Home Alone. He looked like Macaulay Culkin growing up, but I like that kid,
you called him Home Alone.
Yeah, yeah.
That was his name.
Everybody knows who Home Alone is.
That's awesome. What I enjoyed about it is that this is not last year's Bengals. It seems like Joe Burrow has immediately made them at least participants in this game. Last year, it didn't even look like they were participating in the same sport that other teams were participating in out there. And this year, they look like they could beat just about anybody on any given day, which is kind of what you're looking for a team that's still in the rebuilding process. So shout out to the Bengals. I think they're doing it the right way, and good for them. Good for them.
We touched on it a little bit the previous when we was talking about the chart. No, we talked about when we talk about the Bengals, the Browns and Dallas, Dallas Cowboys game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland. It looks like they finally are figuring out. Stefanski figured out that Baker Mayfield is not that good, and maybe we should try to minimize what he needs to do to be able to win games. And they are feeding those backs, man. They're feeding their running backs like Kareem Hunt, future guest of the podcast, by the way. Nick Chubb, they looked awesome in that game before Chubb went down to injury. I haven't heard any word on what's going on with that one yet, but Kareem Hunt, Kareem Hunt, let's not forget, man, this dude was, when he was in Kansas City, he was a top 5 back in the league. Like, he was a hands down top 5 back in the league, arguably the best back in the league at one point. He had the little incident that happened. Now he's with Cleveland, and again, he looks awesome whenever he's in the game, and he just turns out 5-6 yards anytime he touches the ball. But he had an awesome game. The Cleveland Browns ran for over 300 yards on this Dallas team, and Dallas is just bad, bro. Like, that defense is terrible. I feel bad for Dak. When you got to throw 60 passes to keep your team in the game, and he threw for over 500 yards, he threw for 4 or 5 touchdowns, and he did all he could do, but to no avail. Like, your defense can't stop a fucking running nose, bro. Like, that shit is ridiculous how bad they are. Ridiculous. And going into the season, man, like, you look at their pieces, like, he was okay. Like, oh, man, not maybe the greatest, but they should be able to finish maybe like 16, 17. Like, no, they can't stop nothing.
And the craziest thing for me is, as much as I feel as though Cleveland really has figured stuff out, because they've scored a bunch of points in a bunch of games already. I think that they've figured out who they are offensively. That defense has been shored up. I think in particular, what stands out to me is, getting Myles Garrett back, I think solidifies that defense and puts a little pressure on the quarterback, makes them a little bit tougher. They gave up 38 points to the Cowboys, 24 of which was in the fourth quarter after the game was already out of hand, and they're playing a prevent style defense. So I don't think that the 38 points that they gave up is indicative of what they're really about. So as good as the Browns may be moving forward, I think it's a further testament to a Dallas Cowboys team that was one fluke, ridiculous onside kick away from being 0-4 this year. Dak obviously can't do it all. He threw 500 yards, mostly against the prevent defense in the third and fourth quarter, but they can't run the ball. They just look anemic at times, even though they put up, again, 38 points is very deceiving because 24 of it came in the fourth quarter when the game was already over. So I don't know what the answer there. And I really thought Mike McCarthy was going to kind of be a centralizing figure that will pull this team together and really allow a really talented roster to be a contender. And I do not see it. He looks lost out there. The team looks lost. They just look, that's the best way I can describe them. They all look lost on the football field.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy is Jason Garrett 2.0, and he was doing this in Green Bay, his last stint in Green Bay. Like, they looked like shit in Green Bay. He had Aaron Rodgers looking not as good as Aaron Rodgers looks right now. Offensive line is decimated. Like, Collins is out for the season. They are not the same Dallas offensive line that we have known over the past couple of seasons. Zeke, he can't find any lanes to open. And I mean, Dak is throwing the ball and he's kind of just throwing it from behind. So he's got all these yards and, 4 touchdowns and everything of that nature there. But at that point, it was kind of just fantasy stats at that point, so that's great for them. And then his numbers, and hopefully he gets paid. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's not looking that whole NFC East is just gross. Like it's like Joe said last week, man, it's a shame that somebody from that division is going to make the playoffs because nobody really deserves it at this point. If like the playoffs started today, the Eagles would be in first place with a fucking 1-2-1 record. Like, what the fuck, bro? Yeah. Like, it's ill. Like, no NFC East team won last week. Like, god damn. That's 2 weeks in a row.
I think that, the Eagles got their first win, right?
That's a fact.
The Eagles got their first win.
That's a fact.
They're off to Schneid. But, that division, while we're talking about it, I'd like to think that one of those teams, namely the Eagles, kind of figures their shit out. They might sweep the division, might end up with semi-respectable record. But there was a lot of talk, like somebody with a 6-10 record could win that division. I could totally see it right now. It's awful. And now I think what we're seeing, I don't know. I'd love to get your opinion on it. This is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. So I'm glad you brought up the division. Perfect segue. So it came out today that Dwayne Haskins of the Washington football team, the DCFC, is being benched this week in favor of Kyle Allen. So I was wondering your thoughts there on what that move means for Dwayne Haskins, what that move means for the franchise. Are they tanking? Is it just that their coach has that that trust with Kyle Allen that they had back in Carolina? What do you think? What's going on there?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. One, Ron Rivera and this regime did not draft Dwayne Haskins. Am I correct on that?
You're correct. Yeah.
Okay. So they're not married to him. So they don't have any obligations that they feel that they need to start this kid, which obviously I wish they would give him more opportunities. Young black quarterback. I'm always pulling for him. Had a tough game against Baltimore, but yeah, it's just one of those things where like he doesn't seem like he's picked up the NFL speed just yet. It seems like everything is still moving a little bit too fast for him. But at the same time, it was one of those things that he's going to be able to learn by playing. And if you're the Washington Football Club, maybe they went with this decision to go ahead and start Allen because like they're one game out of the division lead right now, and they feel like that they can potentially capture this division. They still have one of the most talented defensive lines in the NFL, so that can get after anybody. I like they got Terry. What's his name? McLaurin. Yeah, he's an awesome young receiver, and they got some weapons on there. I like that running back Gibson. He looked really good in some plays against Baltimore last week. So I think the Washington kind of went into that decision thinking, hey, we can still win this division. We can be competitive. And right now, maybe we can't be as competitive with Haskins as a quarterback. And I don't know what it means for his future moving forward, though. Like, I don't know if him being benched, and he's like third string. Like, he's not even going to be dressing for the game. Like, because Alex Smith is listed as a backup now.
Yep.
And that was like, wow, okay. So he's all the way demoted.
So what was weird to me there was I knew that there was trouble brewing when I saw that his agent tweeted out some comments about I suppose geared towards the coaching staff. I'm not sure if you saw any of that, but the nature of the tweet was, so let me get this straight. It was I should preface it with that it was in response to a report that if Dwayne Haskins didn't start to play well, he may be benched. And the agent tweeted out, okay, so this is essentially a quarterback who's played less than one full season as the starter that's going through a coaching change in 4 games in with no preseason and, no ability to, learn the new offense. And he's the problem. Like, so to me, I kind of got behind that. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like he's had no opportunity here. Like what? And so my only thought once I saw that, Kyle Allen was the backup, that it had to be something with Ron Rivera and, Kyle Allen having worked together before.
Yeah.
And you're probably exactly right. It wasn't something that crossed my mind until literally just now, that they probably feel that they're still in it at this point because of how bad the NFC East is. And they must not think he's the long-term answer. And there must have been something that happened behind the scenes, because you're exactly right. You don't go from the starter to, being third string now if there wasn't some kind of internal struggle there with Ron Rivera. So
I hope it's not turned into like a Josh Rosen thing where, we're going to see Haskins getting traded and then cut and then go into a team's practice squad. You know what I mean? And actually it might be for the best for him if that's the case there, if they're just going to completely demote this kid down to third string at this point and basically he's just running practice squad.
Yeah, he's not going to get the experience he needs in Washington. It might be that his time there is over because, if I've seen how these things have played out before, now that there's like this public rift between him and the team and he's been pushed all the way down to the practice squad.
Yeah.
I'd have to imagine that they're going to move on from him. Like he's not the answer. And it's really interesting because it could either be that they think that they're alive in a very bad division, so they're going to try to spark a change here, or it could be that, maybe there's that inkling of tanking going on to maybe go after Trevor Lawrence early. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. I'm obviously not in the locker room, but my thought is it's the relationship between Rivera and Kyle Allen that's kind of pulling that change.
And honestly, man, like Washington is just one of those dysfunctional franchises in the NFL in general because they just do stupid shit. It's ran by a fucking terrible owner and Dan Snyder. Like it's like they had the whole thing that was going on where women have been just sexually assaulted in that organization for fucking decades. So really, honestly, fuck that team, fuck that franchise. Honestly, fuck Dan Snyder, and just fuck them, bro. Honestly, bro, that's just my thoughts on them. Like I don't like that shit. Just fuck them.
No, I've never been a Washington football fan. The last time they were good was in the early 90s. They haven't really put together any kind of a team that I can remember in the last 20 years or so. So, I'm not impressed with them as an organization. And I don't know, like you said, dysfunction. I mean, dysfunction is the word that comes to mind when you talk about those guys.
What franchise has been impressive though?
Let's hear it.
How about the hometown heroes, man? The Buffalo Bills. 4-0?
That's the game to talk about before we get into our power rankings. That's the team, man, right here. They look impressive or what?
Man, yeah, they look again. 4 weeks in, that Bills offense is humming, man. Like Josh Allen, another impressive performance. 24-34, 288, 2 touchdowns. He's dropping dimes, bro. He is dropping dimes. Stephon Diggs, what an acquirement from him. Like the dude just came in, and I mean, besides Tom Brady, has there been a better acquisition in the offseason than him?
I can't think of one. At least not at a offensive skill position other than quarterback. I don't think that anybody's made as big an impact, because the one thing that I'll say about Josh Allen's improvement and why I thought maybe last year he wasn't the answer and why this year has helped to prove me wrong about that is because he couldn't hit anything deep and he couldn't hit anything outside the hash marks. He couldn't hit his receivers on an out route and he couldn't throw anything deep. So I thought you don't learn that. Traditionally, you don't see quarterbacks get better